Hello everyone, ELD from Brainstorm MTG here, and we've got Scholars Wednesday Night Legacy, Death and Taxes, and on the other side, Nick is playing what I was guessing to be Death and Taxes, and we will see very shortly. My guess was wrong, so spoiler alert, there will be islands on his side of the board, but I had no idea going in exactly what he was going to be on. So it looks like he's going to be on the play, and I will probably be looking for a hand with a solid curve. If you're in a mirror match situation, cards like Aether Vial and Mother of Runes can really give a tremendous advantage over a long, grindy game. There are not a lot of Death and Taxes games that end quickly. A lot of the time you've got to beat somebody to death with a bear over the course of many turns. Of course, Mirran Crusader is a card that does break that rule. The exceptional creature is being called a true name nemesis by many. Really does a lot of work when holding Sword of Fire and Ice, really hard to remove. And of course, pro-green and pro-black right out of the gates makes it immune to cards like Abrupt Decay and Kolgan's Command, both of which can be very, very difficult for Death and Taxes to deal with normally. So a little bit of an improvement there, perhaps, over old lists, certainly in this meta. Looks like Nick has a fistful of blue cards, and he is considering whether or not he wants to keep that. Scrying on 6, and we will see exactly what this brew he has created is capable of. So we've got a basic island go, lots of basics in this matchup. Aether Vial, a reasonable response to island there. You've got to assume that they're going to have some counters, and Vial's going to give both a mana advantage and get around any of those pesky counter spells. So, alright, so he is pondering, and looks like his deck is actually upside down. One of those differences of playing in real life compared to Magic Online. I believe Nick gets a bit more action online, MTGO. He has been in the shop a few times to play Legacy and largely has a good time, even though he's jamming some of his own brews, especially if the crowd is large enough. And there he's going to fetch. So Ponder keeping one and fetching away. And it looks like he's running a lot of basic islands. A bunch of reasons people could consider doing that. Of course, Blood Moon is one of those cards that you want to avoid losing to. But running a bunch of basic islands can allow you to run cards like Back to Basics, and that can be very damaging. And probably better versus Death and Taxes than people would give it credit for. I mean, even though the deck runs a ton of basic planes, those non-basics are pretty key to the success of the deck. Cards like Wasteland, Rishadan Port, and Karakas, which both protects Thalia and answers some of the bigger threats in the format. Those remaining tapped down or being turned into mountains by non-basic hate like Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon can actually be a problem for Death and Taxes, even though it is a mono-white deck with so many basics. And there's probably the all-star non-basic land right there, Rishadan Port, threatening to really slow the game down while that Aether Vial just ticks up every turn. And they'll settle at either 2 or 3 and just give a huge mana advantage every time, like free Dark Rituals. Alright, placing a die on top of the deck to avoid missing that trigger. And it looks like we've got Delver, so Delver's being answered by a 1-drop. It's got to be Mom. Yeah, Mother of Runes. Alright, so we've got some 1-mana creatures on board. Vial ticking up to 2. And we'll see if that Delver is going to flip. Now it's looking like mono blue at this point. Ooh, and a Swords to Plowshares. That is just a huge tempo swing. Delver decks really want to have a Delver down and swinging for 3 every turn. It makes maximum value for each spell that they counter, every little tempo, incremental gain that is a result of your opponent spending mana for effectively nothing on board improving. But without that Delver, this is a board state that certainly seems to favor Death and Taxes. course, with no idea what other type of tricks he might have in there. 2 mana for Stoneforge Mystic. And, oh, it looks like he is jamming Stifle, so that is brutal. Yeah, that is a problem. Would have been better to try and bait with the Vial activation. Could have possibly gotten Stifle just to hit a Vial activation, just to slow down the game state. Having it hit the Stoneforge comes into play trigger. That is hugely problematic. That is literally a squire at this point until I get some equipment into my hand. All right, Wasteland's going to have no targets. At this point, he is on mono blue. Whole lot of counters, stifles, card draw, delver, and we'll see what else he has for threats. It's looking a little threat light at this point. Of course, many of the delver decks in the format have gone into 3, 4 colors, often supporting cards like Deathrite Shaman, and Nick is trying to stay lower to the ground here with basic islands everywhere and trying to take advantage of a field full of non-basics. Alright, so it looks like I'm contemplating a activation for Vial main phase. Really no reason to do that here. I suppose if I had Recruiter of the Guard, that could be a reason. And it looks like a Phyrexian Revoker. Of course, that will not hit fetch lands. It's only non-land permanents. If it could hit fetch lands, it would be a hell of a card in Vintage, being able to hit Bazaar of Baghdad as well. Pithing Needle tends to be a little bit more popular in that format because of that. There are so many lands that you really don't want running away with the game. And we've got a vanilla counterspell from Ice Ages, just straight up 1-for-1 trade. Revoker probably would have just been a bear there. There was really nothing to indicate, cards that would be good to name with Phyrexian Revoker. Sensei's Top is gone, so that would probably be my first guess. In previous metas, if it's mono blue, kind of an unusual brew here, maybe it could have been some type of counterbalance hybrid. But yeah, at this point, I really wouldn't have any idea what to name. And of course, True Name Nemesis. That is a very powerful card in this type of matchup. We'll see if he has any type of equipment to go along with it. As it is right now, we've got a Mirran Crusader, which theme of the day, I guess, is kind of the white True Name Nemesis here. We'll see if I can get a Sword of Fire and Ice to make it really, really difficult to deal with. The black and green looking like it's not actually going to matter very much. It looks like Nick is firmly into mono blue with all of those basic islands there. Of course, I could use Mother of Runes to push through just about any creature. And there's Recruiter of the Guard. All right. A lot of different lines that could happen here, but I've got plenty of mana. So likely going to be able to get equipment into the battlefield if I want here. So Recruiter's trigger is going to resolve. So lots of options. Could get a Stoneforge. That could be very good. I think that is probably the number one go-to with this type of board state. Another Mother of Runes would be a pretty mild play. Flickerwisp is an option to be able to... Oh, it looks like Flickerwisp. There you go. So going to try and get a little grindy here. Flickerwisp can actually go ahead and remove that either Stoneforge or Recruiter, depending on the speed that I want to play at here. Thinking about it, and you're going to need double white. And another Mother of Runes. Welcome addition to the party. That's going to allow for a creature to be getting in there with mono with protection from blue, and also keep a mother untapped to be able to prevent any type of shenanigans. You got to expect some type of bounce effects that hopefully would target and aren't, you know, nothing like washout that would actually remove my entire board. That could be problematic. And we've got Vial on 3. It's going to push in that Flickerwisp from previous turn. Looks like just 2 or maybe 3 cards in Nick's hand here. This is not a great situation for him. Death and Taxes showing a full board of creatures and a whole lot of tricks. Is Vial activation going to resolve? At the end of that second main, and whatever it targets is just going to be coming right back. So there's Recruiter. Just a 1 card in hand is about to go to 2. Oh, that's actually pre-combat main. All right, so getting some beats in there. A little suboptimal there. No particular reason to do that in the pre-combat main. Getting a Stoneforge. And with Vial on 3, at this point, counter spells are a possibility. May have to just cast it. Of course, Cavern of Souls does a lot of heavy lifting in a counterspell heavy match. But I do not currently have access to that, so I'm just going to have to throw it out there and see what happens. Nick passing back. Playing at a good speed, even though he's in a bad situation, which is always nice to see. And it looks like the 2 mana for that second Stoneforge, and Nick waiting for that, very happy to throw a counter spell at that. Very aware of Sword of Fire and Ice. And there's Thalia. Oh, and a Force Pitching Daze. So Nick is now hellbent playing control. That is going to be very difficult to dig back out from. He needs to both somehow stabilize on board and have enough resources to prevent future onslaughts. It's going to be very difficult. So Brainstorm with that fetch land. Yeah, Washout is actually an interesting card for a build like this. If you're going mono blue anyways, it would actually be fun to run. There's a Stronghold card. It is Reigns of Power. It's 2 and 2 blue, and it actually steals your opponent's entire team. You swap teams, and all the creatures gain haste. I actually think that could be a lot of fun in a mono blue shell. A little casual, but I think it would be really funny with Dreadnought to be able to actually steal your opponent's turn, swing with haste, and actually just for 1 mana jam a Dreadnought and sack their whole team to that Dreadnought. Of course, I've played a lot of Dreadstill over the years. It's not really where you want to be anymore, mostly because of Abrupt Decay. But yeah, that's a card that I've kind of had on my radar for years, and I have played against it a few times. It just has never really done what you want it to. All right, so jumping ahead here, we are looking at our opening hands, and Nick is on his 7. And he's going to be on the play. believe we did see a land and a Delver in there. That is definitely what that deck wants to start off with. And there it is. That is the reason to play the deck. That guy flipping on turn 2 sets a significant clock and makes every one of those counter spells just that much better. And looks like we've got another Mother of Runes staring it down. So each of these games, 1-drops, looking to define the game. And Ponder is going to make sure that that Delver almost certainly flips. We see a Force of Will and perhaps a Brainstorm. So definitely going to see Delver flipping here. And a basic island to follow it up. So that mana base is going to be difficult to attack. And we've got a Stoneforge Mystic. And a Brainstorm again. All right. We'll see if he has enough instants and sorceries to be able to Force of Will here as well. So Spell Snare, that would have been much better if he was able to Spell Snare instead of Force. It looks like oh, we forgot to put the 2 back. So let's see. It looks like, oh, he may have actually hurriedly put those back. Yep, that was a little error there. That is going to be very costly. So the Delver is not flipping. And that is because he just jammed 2 cards back after forgetting to put 2 from Brainstorm. Trying to quickly resolve that. So that is a turn with Delver not flipping. So that's another 3 life on the Death and Taxes side. And the Stoneforge coming back down. Brainstorm. And we've got to expect Delver to flip here. And stifling the trigger. All right, so I got a Squire out of the deal. Certainly happier with that than if it was... Oh, and Swords to Plowshares. That poor Delver. Just not flipping. So Swords to Plowshares, very, very powerful so far against a lot of the creature strategies. Just that 1 mana removal spell. Been around since Alpha. They've really never printed anything better. And for 2 mana. All right. That is a spicy new card right there. So that is a 6/5 and is going to be fairly difficult to deal with here. He's got the 5 instants in his graveyard, costs 5 less. So very similar to Gurmag Angler, except you don't waste the resources and would be much better in multiples. So we will see here. It is a big blue creature. Perhaps that Swords would have been better on the non-Delver here. And for 3 mana, there's that Mirran Crusader. So Mother of Runes makes it really difficult to go on the offensive here. Of course, when that Mom taps, the shields are down, so any type of removal can wreak havoc. Likely just going to be Bounce, though, on the other side of the table. For Mono Blue, there's really not a lot of actual creature removal. You've got Vapor Snag, perhaps Threads of Disloyalty. That could be very spicy. Of course, Threads of Disloyalty would be extremely good on this board state once the Mom was tapped. So have to be careful there. And there's Umezawa's Jitte. So that card is going to be a problem. All right, so here we go. Mirran Crusader coming in, and we've got a block. All right, so first strike damage. Here we go. So 2 damage on there. And going to be able to pump the Mirran Crusader up to 6 toughness, so Mother of Rune's likely going to need to come in for the assist. Definitely worth keeping it around. And Nick may have some tricks up his sleeve here. We'll see what he's got. 3 mana available, so likely able to play any type of combat trick that he could possibly have. And Mother of Runes is going to give it protection from blue, and in response, he's got the Vapor Snag. So there you go, losing a life and getting the Crusader out of there. Jitte did get 2 counters. First strike damage was dealt, and those counters will not be enough to finish anything off here, given the 5 toughness. So those counters will just have to sit there for later. More basic islands from Nick. Building that rock-solid mana base. But he is significantly behind on board here. That Jitte really does threaten to take control. And there's a Jace the Mind Sculptor. That is a card that can handle a board and be able to build you back into fighting on the stack by accumulating card advantage. He has a fetch land. From this position, it's a real decision. Bouncing Stoneforge is aggressively bad, giving me access to Sword of Fire and Ice. So it looks like he may just need to fire off the Brainstorm effect and see what happens. If he can find himself another Vapor Snag or any type of 1-mana blue removal, he could be okay. Of course, the difficulty here is that Umezawa's Jitte is going to be able to get equipped to the Stoneforge Mystic, and then Mother of Runes can team up to get right past any type of blocker. So this is a precarious situation. Jace threatens to be just a 4-mana Brainstorm, which is not where he's at his strongest. You want Jace sticking around for many turns. Alright, so we've got that 1 card in his hand, and we'll see if it is enough to stop the inevitable here. And he's going to go ahead and get in for 6. So declining to try and keep a blocker, that means Stoneforge can actually go in unimpeded. And we've got a Wasteland. Just a colorless source here. And Stoneforge has that protection from Mother of Runes available if necessary. He's going to be able to go ahead and take that Jace out of there. Stoneforge, always happy to get called up to carry some equipment. Usually it's summoning that type of useful artifact for the other creatures on the team, but it's more than capable of carrying a sword or jitters or even a Batterskull when necessary. And there's Mirran Crusader, and that's what you actually want carrying your equipment. But Stoneforge did her job. Those 3 counters for Mirran Crusader is going to be able to pump it up to 8 damage on the first strike step, and then get 2 more counters, which would actually lead to a actual 1-turn kill here. This could be 20 damage. So Nick is going to need some type of trick to not just get KO'd with the 1-shot. Alright, so he's certainly had a lot of card selection. I wish him a lot of luck tuning this list. It's clear that the list did not perform up to his standards here so far, but that is often the case with these new brews. You got to get out there, really put the time in, and this is the perfect type of tournament for that. It's a really friendly crowd, but it's also really competitive, and you're going to be playing against some of the best decks in the format with some of the best players in New England. So there we go, another 6-5. So if you ignore the Death and Taxes side of the board, this could be a very favorable game state, but unfortunately that's not how this game works, and this is a very dangerous situation. Alright, going to start out by giving the Mirran Crusader Pro Blue, avoiding any type of combat tricks in all likelihood, and then that Jitte is going to go on, moving in for the 1-turn kill here. And there it goes. Blocks are not an option. So pumping, pumping, and pumping. That's going to bring it up to 8 damage in the first strike step. And we're going to see 2 more counters go on. Unless Nick has some type of response, which is tough to imagine given that Mirran Crusader is pro blue, green, and black. That guy is just tough to deal with. Oh, it looks like Nick is going to want to respond here, though. Tough to imagine what he could have. Oh, and he's got Stifle, so he's going to stave off the lethal for this turn. So it's just going to be 6 pre-combat. Oh, sorry, 6 on the first strike. And that 6 body is actually going to stick around 2 more counters. And it's a question of whether or not to use those here or save them in the case of some other removal. Perhaps a top deck Vapor Snag would be problematic. I suppose exactly that. Yeah, if depending on how these counters are handled, it could be really bad. A Vapor Snag could actually bounce that single blocker out of the way, and then the other creatures would team up to do exactly lethal. So let's see here. Going to need another blocker to ensure. And it looks like Flickerwisp. That's actually going to be 3 total blockers. Or 2. All right, so Stoneforge is just going to go get another piece of equipment in Batterskull. So there are 2 blockers available. Nick, 1 card for turn. Needs to be a good one. And that is going to do it. Scooping it up. So that is the end of the match there. Nick, nothing but props there for bringing a unique brew to the tournament. And I definitely wish him good luck tuning it. Looks like he's got not so much of the budget concerns there outside of dual lands. I mean, he's got the Wastelands, the Force of Wills. He's got a lot of good stuff in there. So it'll be a real challenge to try and make something mono blue like this that is going to be better than Merfolk. Seeing as how Merfolk has had so much effort put into it. But I wish him luck. I think Delver is a very interesting card in the meta right now. It gets down underneath so many of the counter spells, and being able to push through damage every turn. So hopefully he continues on it and sees it evolve and has a lot of fun in the process. This has been ELD for Brainstorm MTG. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this type of commentary, let me know in the comments. I'm trying a few different types of commentary, so hopefully you can check out the videos that we posted this week, and if there's one version that you like more than the others, let me know, and we can gravitate toward whatever people seem to enjoy the most. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching.